Can you guys hear me? Okay, my name is Elizabeth. I am the Director of Sustainability, and presenting with me tonight is Jennifer Seth. I'm going to let her go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Okay, sounds good. My name is Jennifer Seth. If you don't know me, if you're a senator, you should know me by now. But if you don't, my name is Jennifer Seth. I am the senator for Schilder University Village, but last year I was the director of sustainability of student government. So I'm just here for the first half of this presentation to give you all some heartwarming updates about the solar-powered recycling compactors project. So this was a project that Senate looked at last year. So we sent in a funding request to purchase 6 new solar-powered recycling compactors for campus at locations chosen by facilities planning and management after doing a survey of, I guess, the most trafficked areas on campus. And that was a $36,000 bill. And so I'm just here to talk about what happened after we passed the bill. So good news, that picture behind you, that is one of our recycling compactors hanging out in storage. So they have been purchased. If you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. The compactors have been purchased. They've also been placed on campus. These are the 6 locations that we designated where they would be placed. So there should be one by the hub, and by hub I mean where you go get falafel and good Greek food, and where the roastery is at over by the library. We have one at the transit hub, which is over by Jack Trice and the commuter lot, lead rec. West side of Lake Laverne, so think over in Friley Land, over by Lake Laverne there, Buyer Hall, and then Pearson Student Services Plaza in the southeast section. So that would be between Pearson and Student Services, that little walkway there. So these new compactors are placed. We're really, really excited about it. They went in earlier this year, so you might see them when you're walking around on campus in those locations. So check them out, use them. That's why they're here. Another thing that I wanted to bring up about the compactors was that during the debate on the bill for the recycling compactors in particular, I know a number of senators who were here last year had some concerns about addressing contamination in the recycling compactors. So for those of you who are not super aware, if you throw trash, or for example, if you don't clean out a drink container, say you have a plastic cup of coffee, if you don't clean that out, that can contaminate the recycling stream, which basically makes that particular bag of recycling, not bag, but that kind of section of recycling essentially just becomes trash, and we can't actually recycle it because it's contaminated. And so that was one of the issues that people were bringing up with regards to the compactors and concerns about purchasing more. This is also something that facilities planning and management has noted as well. They've had some issues with contamination in the recycling compactors on campus. So in response to that, when the new compactors were purchased, facilities planning and management was this is a great opportunity to kind of revise some of the signage that is placed on the recycling compactors. Did my mic just go out? Or am I? Okay, all right, sorry. Basically, they wanted to revise the signage to hopefully make it more clear to students as to what should be going in the recycling compactors and what should not be, with the hope that it will reduce contamination going forward in the recycling compactors. Next slide, please. So if you look at the screen, those are the new designs that have been implemented in some of the recycling compactors on campus. The old ones just had pictures of sign stuff, but these ones have little informational graphics as to what should go into what bins, so people have a clear idea of how to not contaminate the stream. So next slide. So we have we placed a number of the compactors into specific zones for this pilot project. So we have the revised signage compactors at Memorial Union, Beardshire, Curtis, Kildee, the hub, and the transit hub, which, as I mentioned earlier, is over by Jack Trice and the commuter lot. So next slide. So with moving forward with the pilot project, facilities planning and management, which is specifically IOGG Luulana, who's the recycling coordinator for campus, his zero waste team, and campus services are going to be tracking and comparing the contamination with the recycling compactors that have the revised signage versus recycling compactors that don't. We're hoping that the new signage will be more successful and lower rates of contamination that we're experiencing, that we were experiencing with recycling compactors on campus. And if it's successful, hopefully we will update signage on other compactors as well and expand the project. So basically, as I put on the slides, it's a big question of who will win the fight, the original compactors or the newly designed signage compactors. That was a bad joke. I had high hopes for it. Next slide. Yeah, so if you have any other questions about this, or if you just want to know more about what are solar-powered recycling compactors, how do they work? Why do we do this? Message me on Instagram at my senatorial account. It's listed there. You can also email me. You can also email IODG about it as well, because he's been heavily involved with this project. And now I will turn it over to Elizabeth to do the other half of our presentation this evening.
Okay, good evening. I'm here to talk to you guys about STARS. Next slide, please. STARS stands for the Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Reporting System. It's facilitated by ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, and it is an international program that allows universities to objectively measure their sustainability and impact on the environment. My job with my internship at the Office of Sustainability is collecting, organizing, and preparing data for submission, as well as attending meetings. Iowa State is actually really amazing when it comes to sustainability. We've received 3 back-to-back gold ratings, which is really exciting. And within STARS, there are 17 areas made up of 63 credits, which amounts to 191 points. Next slide, please. So this shows what the STARS report looks like when it's finished. To the left, you can see the credit areas. You have academics, engagement, operations, planning and administration, and innovation and leadership. Then to the right is a screenshot of what the STARS portal looks like. This is from our most recent submission in 2019. So you can see the academics category is further split up into curriculum and research, and then you can see that engagement is split into campus and public engagement, and within those, you see the individual credits. Up at the top, you can see we received 74.09 points. And then to the left is kind of just a drop-down menu for the individual credits. Next slide, please. So today I'm here to talk to you about 2 specific credits. AC8, the 8th credit in the academics category, campus as a living laboratory, and EN13, the 13th credit in the engagement category, community service. Next slide, please. So this is a lot of information. This is the credit information sheet provided by ASHE, but there are only a few key points that I guess I'm here to tell you guys about. The first section is just an explanation of what the credit is. The applicability section, the orange arrow, we're eligible. Students are on campus. That's all this particular credit needs. The criteria section, the yellow arrow, just is a list of the relevant areas that fall under the AC8 category. And students must play a significant role in anything that we submit for this credit. So that can be a class project, a term paper, and I have some more examples a little bit later on. Next slide, please. So yeah, here are a list of some of the things that can count. The most important component is that, that students have the big role, the biggest, well, not necessarily the biggest role, and that these projects take place on campus because the name of the credit is Campus as a Living Laboratory. Next slide. This is for EN13, so the community engagement. This credit applies to all institutions, perfect. And then because it's a different credit, there are some different criteria. So this credit asks for information related to community service on the university. Next slide. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. We're just looking for community service hours completed by a recognized student organization. So what I ask of the senators is for you to go back to the other organizations that you're involved in and say, hey, we need to keep track of our community service hours. Eventually, my boss, Mary Rankin, or I will reach out to you asking for that information, and we can also work with you for how to keep track of and submit that to us. Next slide, please. So if you have any ideas for any projects or papers that might be relevant, feel free to message me on whatever avenue you choose. I also have my email, and feel free to reach out to Mary Rankin too. She's here tonight to answer any questions you may have. She's a fantastic resource for anything related to sustainability. And if you'd like to learn more about the STARS report or anything related to HE, the website is also included on there. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good evening. Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, so you said that you're going to get hours tracked from every organization. How do you think you're going to do that? And then also, how accurate do you think those are going to get towards the end of the STARS report?
So the previous intern did a really fantastic job of setting up a spreadsheet with a list of the organizations and who to contact. So part of my upcoming responsibilities will be updating that information and just making sure that, the current president is listed, for example. I was actually working on that earlier today. So we will reach out to them, and then the name of the department is escaping me right now. But there are departments on campus we can reach out to that track this information.
Thanks so much for both of your comments tonight. I really enjoyed learning about the entire program overall, and thanks, Jennifer, for the work that's been done with the trash compactors. My question, how many other universities or entities are you seeing implement this program, or where else does this arise across the community, state, or national level? This is a really fascinating program.
There are a lot of universities that submit. So there are the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum levels. I don't know the numbers of those off the top of my head, but there are those universities, and then there are also universities that simply report their data and elect not to receive a rating. Mary, would you say about 100 universities?
Actually, there are over 500 universities that are and this is, as Elizabeth mentioned, this is an international program, so there are international universities as well.
Just in case any of you didn't hear this, there are over 500 universities that are certified, and that includes international universities as well. Thank you.
You all know who I am, but for the folks at home, my name is Jacob, and I am a senior in economics. Just wanted to give you all an update tonight. Our Director of Government Relations, Will, has opened the application for the Legislative Ambassador Program. That application is due the 20th. If you're not familiar with the Legislative Ambassadors Program, that means you probably weren't listening to my presentation during the retreat. But just to recap for anyone who might have missed it, the legislative ambassadors travel to the Capitol every spring to advocate for student-friendly policies to the legislators. So in previous years, that's included medical amnesty. We've obviously, advocated for more funding for college, mental health issues, stuff like that. And so affordability, mental health, and student housing are kind of the big pushes that Will wants to make this year. And so If you want to have a part in that in advocating to legislators, or if there's another idea that you have, something else that you want to focus on that you think that someone down at the state capitol should hear and should push on, then I would encourage you to consider joining legislative ambassadors. I've served as a legislative ambassador. Victoria Filippi has also served as one. I think there's a couple others out here. Megan Decker did as well. It's a great way to get involved in student government, so I would encourage any of you to join, or if you know people who are interested in getting involved in student government or just kind of politics in general, great experience, great way to impact your community. So I can take, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Victoria, Megan, and anyone else. And also, of course, Will. The application you can find on the Get Involved page on the student government website. So.
It works now. Ooh. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to adopting the agenda. There's no more open forum comments. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, the agenda is approved. Senator Breck?
I move to add Senator Lent to the.
Any objection to adding Senator Lent to the roll? She's been added to the roll. Moving on to the approval of minutes from last week. Is there a motion to approve last week's minutes? Any objection? Last week's minutes are approved. Going on to committee reports, we'll begin with Rules Committee with Speaker Weathers.
Happy second meeting, everybody. Rules Committee met yesterday at 3:45 in a tucked away corner of the MU. It was a really good time. We went through two bills that you'll see tonight. Both passed favorably, votes of 4-0 on each one. And then we talked about a couple things involving election reform that you'll probably see the results of in the coming weeks. And also, Rules Committee is going to start resuming confirmation hearings for nominations, either Senate nominations or executive nominations. So essentially what that'll be will just be, Rules Committee will be interviewing them and then providing a favorably, unfavorably, no bias opinion on the candidate. It'll just be an extra layer of scrutiny, I guess, for any candidates that come before you all. And that's all I have right now. Let me know if you have any questions regarding rules.
Finance Committee with Director Zastro.
Howdy, y'all. So Finance Committee met yesterday. I sent the audio recording that I had to Trevor. So hopefully he'll be getting that typed up and get the minutes out to you. So we saw two bills yesterday, in addition to the one that we saw last week and was sent no bias. That's Funding Crew Club Part 2. So first of all, we saw Triathlon Club. Is there a representative from Triathlon Club here right now? All right, we might be postponing that bill by a week if we can't get somebody there. We also had, so we did send that favorably though. We also saw the Student and Family Outreach line item transfer. That is pretty straightforward. We're not allocating new money. This was just allocated 2 years ago, and so they've changed their goal. So we did send that favorably with one minor change. I added attached to the email, and then also in the drive is a new memo. It just changes one line, but since we can't amend memos on the floor, since those are mine, I guess, so that is a new memo. If somebody could motion to change the memo when that bill comes up, that'd be great. The account totals are in there. One thing that I did want to say this weekend that I forgot to at the retreat, Finance Committee is going to make mistakes at some point. If you guys, through reading through P&C on your own, or if you learned something in my presentation on Sunday, and you think that Finance Committee has made a mistake, please let us know, because you very well could be right. If you have a question, you're probably not the only one who has it, and if you find a problem with us, it's probably valid, and if it's not, then it would be great if you knew why it wasn't, so that we could have a Senate that's very educated about finance stuff in the future. So if there are any questions, that's all I have. Awesome, thank you.
Moving on to PR Committee with Director Johnson.
Hi, everyone. The PR committee will meet for the first time next Tuesday at 7:30 in the Senate office. We're excited to get that started for the year. And then also our at-large committee applications are now open. So if you know anybody that's interested, those are ready. Everybody probably saw the newsletter that we sent out yesterday. Big shout out to Bryce for doing that for the first one. So that was awesome. We're excited to see that and then continue that through the year. And then the mass email will be going out likely the end of next week. It just needs to go through some checks with the university, and then that'll be going out, spotlighting all the committees. So you'll see that soon. And then also Club Fest will be held next Wednesday, so a week from today, from 11 to 4, I believe. So we'll have signups for tabling with that out shortly, but we're signed up and ready to go. And then also we'll be doing committee spotlights on our social media the end of this week and then next week and the following week. So be on the lookout for those, and feel free to share those on your Instagram stories or on Facebook if you'd like to.
And then Diversity and Inclusion Committee with Director Flores.
Hello. I have a couple updates. So first, thank you to everyone who went to the diversity and inclusion training that was at the retreat. And for those who are interested in getting a recap, please contact me. I'd love to do that for you. Our at-large committee are also open now for applications. Our committee met last week, and we have named a vice chair. So congratulations to Sanjana Adagarla. Our director of International Student Experience has begun a database for employers that hire international students, so those jobs can be accessed easier and better and have it be in a centralized location. And I have begun meeting with other campus partners for possible collaborations. And I really enjoyed making the connections for people that could possibly help us out throughout the year. So far, I've met with Vice President Toya Younger, Campus Life DI Joseph Ballard, and MSA Director Kenyatta Schamberger. And I'll be meeting with more people soon. That's it for me.
SI Committee with Advait.
Hello folks, SI Committee had its first meeting of the new semester last night. Fun meeting, lots of talk, projects mapped out, roadmap figured out, and you should be starting to see projects materialize over the coming weeks. We're now at the stage where we're probably going to have to reach out to the university and get supplies and all that stuff. So, woo.
Civic Engagement with Senator Paulson.
Hello, I don't really have any updates other than my committee is meeting next week, but yeah.
And then finally, Ad Hoc with Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, nothing drastic to update all of you on. However, next week we will be seeing a program brought to you by the Vice Chair of the Ad Hoc Committee, our Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Flores. She'll be basically updating all of you on the work that the committee did throughout the summer, telling you the projects that we've accomplished. In fact, one of the bills we'll be seeing tonight is a direct result of all of the discussions we had in that committee. And we'll also be updating all of you on what we want you to do next. There's certain things that we couldn't accomplish that all of you as senators can pick up as projects throughout the year. So pay attention to that and ask a lot of questions.
Comments from the executive branch with President Campbell.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see you, and thanks for making it a week 2 of student government to kick off the semester. I've got a few updates tonight that I'll hit send on this email that you can see the more detailed version in your inbox. But to begin, right now there's an ongoing search for the Director of Student Counseling Services, so that's being conducted in conjunction with a third-party company within the university, and we're working on that right now to help review applications for candidates and provide input. Yesterday I had the pleasure, it was awesome, I got to wear a hard hat, but I had the pleasure of attending the slip form vertical concrete pour celebration. So there's a new feed and grain mill going up south of Highway 30 right now, which is pretty cool. It's going to be a great addition to Iowa State University that will provide exceptional feed and grain mill learning and research opportunities and really make us a world leader in this area of education. So that's pretty cool. The state of Iowa produces more corn annually than the continent of Africa. That was something I pulled away from the conversation the other day. So that was also with the ISU Foundation. Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Flores, touched on our meeting with Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for Campus Life, Joseph Ballard II. We discussed areas for collaboration this year, in addition to various ongoing campus initiatives and projects. So in addition to that, I wanted to highlight Director of International Student Experience, Sun, and Director of DE&I, Flores, will be serving on Joseph Ballard's Student Advisory Council this year, which is pretty cool. It's the inaugural year for that. In the exec update, there are 2 events that I want to point to, one being the Multicultural Center Mixer, that's in collaboration with MSA, as well as the International Student Welcome Breakfast with the Department of Residence and ISSO that's coming up. So more details in my update. Finally, just thanks for an awesome retreat. It was great to spend time with a lot of you in this room. I really enjoyed the opportunity to connect and have fun and eat a s'more next to you. So I'm looking forward to working together this year and continuing the positive momentum. Prior to the retreat, Vice President Decker, Finance Director Zastro, and myself attended the LEAD retreat put on by the Student Engagement Center this year. So that was here in the MU, and we're really looking forward to relationships with different groups on campus and made some fantastic connections there on Saturday. My last 2 quick updates are just upcoming events I want to put on your radar. Number 1 being Big 12 Conference is an annual event. It was virtual last year. Will be hosted at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. A group of representatives from student government will be traveling down to Waco mid-September to represent Iowa State at the conference. So if there are anything that you would like to talk to us about in terms of issues we want to bring to a Big 12 level with the other 10 schools, please let us know. And then in conjunction with that, the Board of Regents meeting is actually being held at Iowa State at the Alumni Center on September 16th. So we have a student leaders breakfast. It'll be an hour long. Vice President Decker, myself, and our Director of Governmental Relations, Will Fight, will also be there. So if there are topics of discussion you'd like to help us present to the board, we're extremely open to some of those conversations and would really love to hear input from that. So with that being said, what questions do you have and what questions can I answer right now? I'm happy to answer them at this point or at the meeting afterwards or an email too. No questions? All right, I'll turn it back to Vice President Decker.
All right, moving on to general orders, 2021-2-002F, Student and Family Outreach Team Line Item Transfer with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, so I am basically the author of this bill only in name, so I will go ahead and give my opening speaking privilege over to Finance Director Zastro.
Thank you. So this is for those of you who were in Senate last year. The treasurer for this club is Abigail Schulte, who was valuable in Senate last year. She's the chair of Civic Engagement Committee, so she knows what she's doing. She gave us a budget back in the spring, and it was really well put together. So the one change, if somebody could change the memo, I have it labeled as new memo in the drive. If you could just clarify on the enacted clause. I don't know, maybe changing the link would be, maybe that's the amendment that I'm looking for there. So this is pretty straightforward. If there are any questions, happy to take them. That's all I got. Yield.
Speaker Weathers.
I move to update the hyperlink on the word memo to the PDF labeled new memo under the external matters drive in the Google Drive.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any objection? All right, we go ahead and add it. We'll go ahead and debate period for that addition. So not the entire bill, just the addition that Speaker Weathers just said.
Call the question.
The question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to pass or to adding this and unanimously? All right, that's been added back onto main debate for the entire bill. Senator Rulli.
Student Family Outreach is a partner organization, so we are transferring stuff to the PNC. They can work around PNC, so some of the stuff like catering is okay because they're partnered. Their vision essentially aligns with student government and the campus community. Everything else is pretty standard. They're not getting any new money, so this is good to go, and I don't see any more placards, so I'll call the question.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go ahead and go into closing comments with Speaker Weathers. No closing comments. All right, we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote since this is a funding bill. So please say yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Cooper.
Yes.
Crab.
Yes.
DeVore. Filippi. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Gates. Yes. Goff. Yes. Hayes. Yes. Advait. Yes. Rios. Yes. McCready.
Yes.
Paulson. Yes. Risvik. Yes. Ruley.
Yes.
Seth.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Wigmeister.
Yes.
Weathers.
Yes.
Yang. Zuber. A vote to 24 to 0 to 0. The bill passes. Moving on to 2021-2-005F, Funding Crew Club Part 2 with Senator Ruley.
Yeah, so the representative for Crew Club came last week. They are asking for funding for their replacement for the boat that was damaged. I will read the excerpt that Alexa said last week. They said this is for repairing or replacing their 8-person boat. Student government bought it many years back. It was parked outside an area which was locked. Someone hit it in March and it's missing about 5 feet. They got a quote and it cost about $6,000 to buy it new and they'd have to ship it. But the Des Moines Rowing Club is selling a very similar boat for, I think the color was different. It was the only change. For $4,000. They want to buy that instead of fixing theirs. They said club will cover half and student would cover half. And I will yield then.
Any questions or comments? Any discussion? Senator Weathers?
I'd like to move to make the to adopt the Finance Committee amendments.
It's been a motion to adopt the Finance Committee amendments. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to adopt the Finance Committee amendments. We'll go ahead and go into the discussion period for that. So this is the discussion on the amendments that are being proposed. Finance Director Zastra, are you yielding? Okay.
As a point of information, these are not Finance Committee amendments. This is an amendment that I wrote, hoping for it to be proposed on the floor.
Okay. So Speaker Weathers.
I would like to withdraw my amendment and replace it with the, to amend it as is listed on the document, replacing, well, it's listed on the document. I move to do that.
All right, there's been a motion to, can you tell me exactly what's been changed here? The replacement?
It's just adding that sentence.
Okay, adding that sentence on the screen right there. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any objection to adding that proposed sentence right there? And then we're going into debate on the amendment. Any discussion? Speaker Weathers?
Yeah, Mason, would you like to explain why you wanted to make this amendment?
Yeah, sorry. I meant to bring this up in Finance Committee yesterday. So I meant for this to be a Finance Committee amendment. I talked to Sophie about this. So Crew Club doesn't currently have enough money to pay for the other half of this. They're having a fundraiser at the end of September that they believe will get them enough money. But just in case it doesn't, adding this clause just saying the funds won't be transferred until they're ready to make the purchase means we don't transfer the money unless they're also ready to buy it. So this is just a little procedural thing. It doesn't really change the contents of the bill. It's just making everybody's life a little bit easier if they never do raise these funds. I yield.
Oh, Senator Rios? Yes, so it's just the replace right there. So replace with, and that this funding is not transferred until Rec Services and Crew Club are prepared to make the, can we see the rest of it? Purchase, perfect, thank you.
Call the question.
Question has been called for. and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing the amendment unanimously? All right. Amendment's been added. Now we're on the main motion once again. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? All right. We'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote since this is a funding bill. Let's please say yes, no, or abstain. Adagarla. Ulrich?
Yes.
Brecht?
Yes.
Claiborne?
Yes.
Cooper?
Yes.
Crab?
Yes.
DeVore? Filippi?
Yes.
Finaldi?
Yes.
Gates?
Yes.
Goff?
Yes.
Hayes? Advait? Lent?
Yes.
Rios? McCready?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Risvik?
Yes.
Ruley?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Wegmeister?
Yes.
Weathers?
Yes.
Yang? Zuber? Right, vote to 24 to 0 to 0. The bill passes. All right, moving on to 2021-2-006F Triathlon Club Budget Shuffle with Senator Wegmeister.
I'd like to yield my time to Finance Director Zastro.
Yeah, so we currently don't have a representative from Triathlon Club here. With Crew Club, they came through last week, and with the outreach line item transfer, it's okay because we're not allocating new money, but our bylaw 9.2.3 says any student organization requesting funding through student government accounts must send a representative. We've interpreted this to mean that if we're just transferring money that's already been allocated, you don't have to have one here. But if we're giving out new money, which we are for this bill, they do need to have a rep here speaking at Senate at some point on the issue. So I recommended to Senator Wegmeister to don't postpone this, to table this indefinitely, which would allow us to pick it up off the table if they do manage to come here later tonight, or if they don't manage to get here tonight and they have to come next week, then we would be able to see the request whenever they're able to make it. So with that, I will yield my time back to Senator Wegmeister.
Last call, anyone from Triathlon Club? Then I'd like to move to table the bill indefinitely.
It's been moved and seconded to table this bill indefinitely. Is there any objection? All right, so do we have to vote on that then? So we're going to go ahead and vote on it, and we can always call for UC as well, just to table this motion indefinitely. So UC, question, is there a question? Call for question. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection? All right, so we have a call for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to tabling this motion indefinitely and unanimously consent? All right, the motion has been tabled. Now we're going to move on to internal matters, General Orders 2021-2-003Y, disbanding student advocates with Vice Speaker Crab.
All right, so this is going to be the bill disbanding student advocates. Essentially, student advocates was a program that was created like 2 years ago through student government, where we would help in academic misconduct cases. No, Ludwig's looking at me wrong. Okay, and so essentially we just couldn't work with the student legal services, and so without that they can't really do anything. But yeah, I yield.
Is there any discussion? Senator Seth.
Can you, I guess this is directed to Eliana or people who would know the answer. Can you just kind of discuss maybe what some of the issues were that people were having in student advocates? Like what specifically, like why was it difficult to work with student legal services? Was it like confidentiality issues or something along that effect? Like, could you just explain that further?
Yeah. Ludwig Chief of Staff Ludwig worked closer with this program than I did, so I'm going to pass my speaking privileges over to him.
Yeah, so there were just all kinds of issues. The university wasn't really interested in involving us at kind of any stage of the process. This is something that we'd picked up from a couple other universities that had similar programs. The Iowa State administration just wasn't willing to give, let us into the process as much as others had. There's just some concerns, particularly around giving it. There's a very fine line to walk in terms of whether or not you end up giving legal advice, which puts people involved in the program at risk and the university at risk. And so the university didn't want to risk it, and so we couldn't get the Dean of Students office to sign on. So after trying for about a whole year and going through 2 different directors in that year, we kind of sat down at the end of the year, thought through some other ideas about maybe where this program could go, and there wasn't anything that we couldn't kind of do in any other part of student government, so we thought scrapping it would just make the most sense.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question really well. I yield.
Does someone want to yield their time to President Campbell? Senator Philippi? And President Campbell.
Thank you. And just to add on to Chief of Staff Ludwig's comments, one thing that had directly come from Dean of Students Sharon Evans had been that the Student Advocates program as it stands was not fully compatible with the university's format, and currently it doesn't alleviate any of the workload for their staff in their office. And so that was one thing that just to add on right now to what the Chief of Staff Ludwig had said.
Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, I have no comments on the content of the bill. I think Chief of Staff Ludwig covered it pretty well. But I would like to move to adopt the Rules Committee amendments. They're listed there on the side.
It's been moved to adopt the Rules Committee amendments listed on there and seconded. Any objection? Okay, we're going to go ahead and go into a discussion period on those amendments that are proposed on the screen there.
Yeah, this was just renumbering the bylaws. The bylaws are a little wacky right now, so the numbering system was a little messed up, and we just updated that to accurately put these amendments in the accurate spot of the bylaws. Call to question.
Question has been called for. Now we're going to vote on the proposed amendments. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing these amendments unanimously? All right, the amendments have been added. Now on to the main motion.
Call to question on the bill as a whole.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll go ahead and go into a placard vote for this one. Oh, we're going to do a roll call vote for the resolution. So, okay, since it's a bylaw change, we're going to do a roll call vote. So just like before, yes, no, or abstain. Atagarla. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Cooper. Yes. Crabb. Yes. Philippi. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Gates. Goff. Yes. Hayes. Yes. Lent. Yes. Edvate. Rios. Yes. McCready. Yes. Paulson. Yes. Risvik. Yes. Ruley. Yes. Seth. Yes. Simmons. Yes. Wegmeister. Yes. Weathers.
Yes.
Yang. Yes. Zuber. Yes. A vote to 24 to 0 to 0. The bill passes, or the resolution passes. Moving on to 2021-2-001Y Ad Hoc DEI Committee Bylaw Recommendations with Vice Speaker Crabb.
All right, I'm talking again. This is a bill that I told you all to really read through this week. This is kind of the hard work of 2-3 months, and then also you'll be seeing some outreach bylaw recommendations very soon as well. But like I said, I hope you all read through it. I'm just going to go over through some of the enacted clauses. So essentially, the first enacted clause would be adding the International Student Experience Director onto the Diversity Inclusion Committee. So that's kind of just the second enacted clause would be that the speaker essentially shall arrange time for the Director of Student Diversity to give a program. And so it says student diversity, it's diversity inclusion director, but it doesn't mirror that in the bylaws, so that's why it looks a little funky. And then the next one would be that that the director of outreach would have to schedule at least one student government town hall each semester. And then the next one is kind of you'll see like the rules amendments on it. It's a little tricky. But essentially that would be creating the Finance Outreach and Reduction of Disparity Director, also known as FORD. We're doing bad acronyms this year, it's all right. But really look through that part. Yeah, and so I think this is a really good bylaw bill. I'm really excited to see some conversation on this yeah, so thank you, and I yield.
Is there any discussion on the bill as a whole? Senator Rios?
Okay. My question is why, if you could please explain, why are we leaving out dedicate and give support? Is that going to be part of the responsibilities of the liaison? And is that included in the responsibilities, if so? Question mark.
Yeah, so essentially with that, Mason was talking about how each person in finance should only have about like 18 clubs or organizations. I don't know the exact number, but it's double of what a normal person should have. So that would be giving someone like 36 clubs and organizations. So the wording just makes it a little bit better to like say serving as a liaison, because if we were going to have them educate and support fully, that person would be like really, really overwhelmed. So this kind of clears up the language just a little bit better for finance, so.
And then when it says at least every other meeting, would that be like one meeting or two? Is there a way we could be more specific about that?
Yeah, so I know that we are voting on the amendments by rules hopefully soon. Which one are you looking at again? I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. The last one, 5, 6, 11, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah. So this would be, which one, what's your question on that one again?
My question, it says like every other meeting, and there's not like a specific number.
Yeah, so I think we just kind of left it a little vague because maybe they'll have them on Mondays and like the Labor Days that day or something. So kind of it gives it's a little bit more vague so that we don't have to keep to a schedule, and just in case things happen or there's breaks or it kind of that clarifies it, I guess, for the person that's going to be the forward director. So
Well, I guess my concern is like it says attend at least every other meeting, and I personally think that it should be a little bit more specific, like attend at least one meeting or at least two.
Yeah, I guess that's something you could look at.
Okay.
If you want to create an amendment for that, you totally can. So if that's something that you're concerned with,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Point of information, have the Rules Committee amendments been moved?
No, we're still in the main motion right now.
All right, I move that we adopt the Rules Committee amendments then first.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the Rules Committee amendments. Is there any objection to debating that right now? All right, so we're going to go ahead and to move into a debate period for those proposed amendments. Is there any discussion? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Now we're voting on the main amendments, or the proposed amendments here. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing the amendments unanimously? Right, amendments have been added. Now we're on to the main motion once again. Senator Seth.
Yeah, so I was looking through this bill, and I guess one of the main comments that I have on the bill, and I'm going to ask a question later to kind of clarify this and see if I'm misinterpreting, but the bill feels kind of sparse. I was part of the cabinet discussions at last year, kind of I think where this idea came into the forefront to have an ad hoc committee to do this. And some of the things that we talked about with regards to like having like mentor-mentee meetings at events, like student events, and like having like office hours, and like basically going to like a multicultural or like LGBTQIA plus like event in place of doing your office hours that week, and sort of like these other student engagement pieces. That's just like not in the bill. And so my concerns with the bill is that it doesn't do enough to address systemic issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in student government. And so what I want to ask is basically to, I guess, Eliana, since you're the author of the bill, are there going to be more initiatives and more bylaw bills that will follow? Is this just the first one? Or is there going to be more discussion and reform in regards to kind of addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion at a more systemic level in student government? Because I do not feel that this bill, as it stands, does that entirely.
Yes, so there is another, I said this earlier, that there is an outreach bylaw bill coming out very soon, talking about the things such as outreach credits and stuff like that. And then also when the report comes next week, there's a lot of stuff in it where we had to divide it up on like, what do we want as legislation? What do we want personally, like as the vice speaker, to like create an environment, something like that. So there's, hopefully you do get to see what you want next week. It should be a good report, but if there's anything you want to add or change in this to maybe deal with more issues, you totally can. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for addressing that. I will yield.
Speaker Weathers.
Okay, in Rules Committee, we had a debate about a specific part of this that I'm going to bring up now. Let me point everyone's attention to the third to last enacted clause under 5.6.11.1. I am going to move to remove confirmed by the Senate and replace it with the following words: consented to by the Director of Student Diversity.
It's been moved and seconded to change the language on confirmed by the Senate to appointed by the Director of Diversity or Student Diversity. Is there any objection? We'll go ahead and go into a voting period on that amendment. Or it's not a voting, excuse me, a discussion period on the amendment. Speaker Brothers.
Okay, yeah, so I guess the main rationale behind making this amendment, and this was something that Finance Director Zastro was also kind of pushing for, and I think he's in the right. Typically, the Senate does not give any sort of confirmation or opinion on specific roles within inside of a committee. They'll only confirm like executive appointments or like new senators or things like that. Typically, if you've already confirmed the Director of Finance, and I'm also adding here the Director of Student Diversity because I think that brings a helpful background that the Finance Director may not always have. But if you've confirmed both the Director of Student Diversity and the Finance Director, I think you've probably already put your trust in their judgment to assign committee members, essentially. So that, yeah, I just didn't want to burden up Senate with more confirmations, and I think we already agree that these two people would be qualified to make that appointment. I yield.
Is there any discussion on the amendment proposed?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so changing that to and confirmed by the Director of Student Diversity. Is there any more discussion on the amendment?
Friendly amendment to capitalize the Director.
Any other discussion or friendly amendments to add to the proposed amendment? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting? There's been objection to the motion. State your point.
I wanted to hear from Finance Director Zastro. It looks like he has a thought on the matter.
I'm not going to die on this hill. I confirmed by one person I don't think makes sense. I think consented to makes more sense. And I think that changing it from consent to confirm does change the intention, which shouldn't be taken as a friendly. I yield.
So Senator Debate proposes that we go to the previous wording, which would have said and consented to by the Director of Student Diversity. Is there any objection to that? Anybody against changing it back to what it was before? Okay. So now, question has been called for on the amendment as a whole. Is there any objection to voting now? All right, we're going into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing this amendment unanimously? Right, the amendment's been added. Now we're on to the main motion once again. Go to Senator Simmons.
Okay, yeah, I have a question about the third enacted clause. Senator Crabb, you said that you wanted the Director of Outreach to organize and schedule at least one student government town hall. Do we want to specify that in our bill?
So the bylaw that you're seeing, that like the 4.4.10.5, that's under the Director of Outreach's list and duties of, yeah. So, but that was a really good question, so.
Senator Lent.
I move to amend the motion by removing the words every other meeting and adding at least 50% of meetings in the third to last enacted clause 5.6.11.2.3.
There's been a motion to change at least every other to, can you say that one more time?
At least 50% of meetings.
At least 50% of meetings. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to change the language on 5.6.11.2.3. Is there any objection? All right, we'll go ahead and go into discussion period for it. Vice Speaker Crabb.
I do like the idea. I just think we could find a better word for it than like half.
Yeah.
50%. So if anyone has any ideas, because I'm not going to do it.
Am I allowed to speak at the moment?
Yes.
Okay. I totally don't know what like percentage or whatever we were going for. It was just like more clear way of saying every other meeting. So there's like wiggle room, but it's less the word I'm looking for.
Senator Debate.
Senator Lent, would you take that as a friendly?
Yes.
Suggested language. All right.
Okay. Senator Cooper.
I was gonna say that this might be not what you're going for, but we could go for more of the majority of. Do we need it to be more specific than that? But that's another route that could be taken.
And I think this is another, like one of those conversations that should be brought up by everyone here is, do you think that this director that it's going to be working with disparity needs to go to all meetings, 3/4 of the meetings, half the meetings? You can look past of like every other, but if you think that your director for Ford should be at every single meeting, you can also have that conversation right now too. And I also want to pass my speaking privilege to, oh wait, never mind, you were talking, never mind.
Okay, we're still in debate on the amendment to change the language of the meetings. Okay. Any other discussion? Oh, Senator Seth.
I just wanted to comment briefly on kind of the wording and kind of discussing like that we want the director to attend at least half the meetings of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I think this is a good number. I think in particular because this is a bylaw bill, so we want it to be kind of flexible to handle a lot of situations. So, we are still in COVID times and things happen. So, there might be instances where the Finance Outreach and Reduction of Disparity Director might not be able to attend a meeting due to illness, due to having COVID. Hopefully that is not going to be an issue moving forward, but I think this language allows them the flexibility, if they have to not be there, then they can not be there for a meeting or something like that. And I will yield the rest of my, who has their placard up? Did somebody?
Someone here in the back row want to speak. President Campbell, did you want to?
Was it you,
Oh,
Ludwig?
sorry.
Okay.
Chief of Staff Ludwig.
I will yield the rest of my time to Chief of Staff Ludwig.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, all I was going to say is that when looking at the entire wording of the line, especially with unless excused by the Director of Student Diversity, I think we already are achieving what we're going for here in terms of getting to half. Obviously, there might be, a meeting here or there, and it might come slightly under half, but I imagine this director will be working fairly close with the committee anyway, so I'm not really worried about that. So I'm not really sure that saying half or 50% is necessary. Every other meeting with the ability to be excused by the director gets you to kind of where you want to be. But that's just my thoughts, so thank you.
Senator Hayes.
Sort of piggybacking off of Ludwig, I might even like every other meeting more, because half of all meetings can mean you go to all the ones at the start of the year and none of the ones at the end. It seems like you could at least attend pretty frequently, if you say every other meeting, because it sort of keeps you on track to consistently be attending the meeting. So I like the original wording better as well.
Senator Yang.
I just wanted to clarify, was the intent to have the director attend literally every other meeting, or was it actually a certain % of the meetings? If anyone could answer that.
Yeah, I think to a point we're getting a little bit too literal on this. I think if we put every other meeting, they'll kind of get that they need to go to half, or maybe you know what I mean, every other meeting. So did that answer your question at all?
No, what was the intent? I know it's literal, but we're pretty literal here.
Can you re-ask your question?
Yeah. Was the intent to actually be every other meeting, as in there's 2 meetings, they should attend 1, and then the next meeting they don't have to, and the next meeting they have to, et cetera, or is it actually a certain %?
No, it should probably be every other. I know that with I've been in D&I, and it's run similarly, where you kind of just give updates, and so they'll still be in the loop if they go to every other meeting. So, yeah.
Okay, then I think it should go back to its original wording with every other meeting.
Thank you.
Senator Rios.
I have a comment, but it's not about the wording of that sentence. Is that okay if I say it now?
We're still on the amendment, so once we get back to the main motion, you can share.
Yeah, but one comment about that sentence. I think there is I don't want to get stuck on this, but I feel like that's too ambiguous to just leave it as every other meeting, because that could be interpreted as one meeting. And do we really want the director to only attend one meeting?
Is this towards me? Is this towards me?
If you want to answer, yeah.
Second. Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? Okay, we're going to go into a voting period. Again, this is just for the amendment of the language for 5.6.11.2.3 on the attendance of the non-voting members. So we'll go ahead and go into a placard vote for this. So vote yes, no, or abstain. So we'll begin with yeses.
Point of information, are we voting on half of
So we're voting on keeping, so voting yes would be adding in half of all meetings. Voting no would be keeping the original language, correct? So yes is what the amendment was proposed. No is same as it was before. So any yeses? Okay. No? All right, any abstentions? All right, of a vote of 1 to 22 to 1, the amendment fails. Back to the main motion. Senator Rulli.
Yeah, I had kind of two things. The first one is, was on the, oh gosh, I'm lost here. Okay. This is on 5.6.11.1. It's kind of a question towards Vice Speaker Crabb. Is there a reason that Rules Committee, or you wanted this person to already be on Finance Committee, or is there a reason that it was this person is restricted to being only on Finance Committee? Because that does restrict it to one of the senators, which is 4 people. Is there a reason there was a restriction?
I think that you could still be an at-large and hold this role. The reason I would like them to be a member of Finance is because they're gonna know, as a member of Finance, you probably know a lot more than me. So it'd be nice to have someone from Finance there, and then also work with diversity and inclusion. I think it kind of says in the title too, a little bit of, we've heard from a lot of groups that they're not getting outreach. They don't know that these funding options exist. So the best way to do is to have someone from Finance in this role.
Cool. And then my second one was on 5.6.11.2.2, and that's communicate with culture/identity-based student organizations as defined by student engagement. To me, this line seems kind of broad. It's if they're serving as the liaison, shouldn't they already be communicating with the student organization? I think specifying this this line would be the better course of action. So they should reach out and say, hey, here's information about the funding. Say they should send a specific amount of emails per semester. I feel like this could turn into a situation where it's I don't know, I'd say bring up the comparison of student advocates, where it's yeah, student advocates it was a great idea. They should communicate, but it just maybe wasn't specific enough or wasn't in depth. So I'll yield while I think about how specific I want to get to it.
Any other discussion? Senator Claiborne.
Thank you. So talking about the communicate with the culture and identity-based student organizations as defined by student engagement. Student engagement doesn't actually do the assigning of groups into the different categories. The groups can put their own labels on it. So some identity-based groups are Solar Car, and there are a couple of bio buses on here and Greek Week. So I would like to. There are a lot of orgs that we fund that this does apply to, and I think that the intention of this is well placed. But I don't know if student engagement being the defining factor here is particularly relevant to this role. This is something that I should have had prepared for yesterday in Rules Committee. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's just kind of a thought. I yield.
Any other discussion on the bill? Senator Yang.
Just kind of piggybacking off of what Mason said there, or Finance Director Zastro. I had a little bit of trouble with the language here. It says on the first whereas clause, for all students, or improve our relationships and connections with all students. I think the intention here is to target cultural groups or more identity-based groups that are actually identity-based, not just self-identifying. So that's also a thought. What exactly does all mean? Does that include like groups that are not those or not? I yield.
Someone want to yield their time again to Senator Zastro?
Speaking privilege.
Oh, yeah, for this, yeah, it's funny, Bill, sorry. You go ahead.
A recommendation that I might make is just listing it as multicultural groups, taking out the classification by SAC, leaving it generic enough that the DE&I director and this person can self-identify what groups need to be reached out to. I can't make motions, but if somebody would like to make that motion, they would be welcome to. I yield.
Senator Debate.
Before I make that motion, Chief of Staff Ludwig, did you have to, oh, never mind. So motioned.
The motion.
Vice Speaker Crab, what is on your mind?
Hate that. I think you have the right idea, Mason, but I also think that for whoever tries to make this amendment, try to think as inclusively as possible. I think the reason we did go for culture/identity is because that's how it's listed on the website. A majority of these groups that we're looking at are in that section. I think whoever's in the forward position will know not to reach out to Solar Car. I hope they don't. But I think that's kind of the conversation of that. And if you wanted to do something like my multicultural, I think we would need a little bit more time to think of something more inclusive.
Speaker Weathers. Or, sorry, still Senator Debate.
Speaker Weathers, sure.
Are you directing your time to me, Adbay? Okay. I would maybe recommend language that looks like communicate with cultural identity-based student organizations as defined, but not limited. No, defined by student engagement, but not limited. Well, hang on. Maybe something that has including but not limited to. So after organizations. This is your privilege, so I'm not going to make the motion, but.
I would like to make the motion I just typed up.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the proposed motion. Is there any objection? All right, we're going to go ahead and go into a debate period on that motion. Question has been called for and seconded. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period for the proposed amendment. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing this amendment unanimously? All right. The amendment's been added back to the main motion. Speaker Weathers.
Yeah, sorry, we should have done this. In the line right below it, I would like to make the same amendment. I'll reflect it on the screen here. Okay, so replacing the word as with including but not limited to being those.
It's been moved to add the proposed language in 5.6.11.2.2. Any objection? All right, we'll go ahead and debate on that. Question has been called for on the amendment. Any objection? And seconded. Any objection to voting now? All right, we'll go into a voting period on the proposed amendment. Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to passing that amendment unanimously? All right, amendment's been added back to the main motion once again. Senator Rulli.
You can actually move me down, Senator Seth. Go.
Senator Seth.
I would like to piggyback off of something that Senator Rulli mentioned earlier, where in 5.6. 11.2.2, it says communicate with culture identity-based student organizations. I think the wording of communicate is kind of vague. To me, I would hope that the director would like communicate often with these organizations, but technically the way that it's worded now, in theory, they could like send one email and only one email, and like technically they communicated. So I'm gonna move to add the word communicate regularly. So I moved to add the word regularly after communicate in the 5.6.11.22 bylaw.
It's been moved and seconded to add or to change the language in 5.6.11.2.2. Is there any objection to debating that amendment? All right, we'll go ahead and go into a debate period for that proposed amendment. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Okay, Senator Hayes?
I don't like this amendment. I appreciate the insight to it, but as somebody who's thought about the role of this position a lot, I don't think this is going to be regular communication. I think that would be a huge burden on the person who fills this role. My vision for this position is somebody who specifically reaches out to multicultural organizations, probably, I would think once a semester, and just lets us know, here are the resources available to you. That might mean going to, probably sending out an email to all the treasurers and presidents of those orgs, and probably going to maybe an International Student Council event early in the year, Multicultural Students Association, International Students and Scholars Association meeting. But I don't intend this to be regular communication. I think that would be too much work for this one person to do. And I really wish you all would consider that. Thank you.
Yeah, still in the objection, Senator Hayes.
Yeah, I just also would like to, agree with that, but also say that, there's many things that we would like to put in the bylaws. And oftentimes it's good to, leave them vague so that we have room to allow personal discretion while, people in these positions operate as time goes on and we figure out how we best serve our constituents. So that's all.
Question has been called for. Is there a second? Any objection to voting now? We're going to a voting period on the amendment, just the word regularly. We'll go ahead and go into a placard vote on that. So vote yes, no, or abstain, starting with yeses. Noes? And abstentions. Of a vote of 2 to 20 to 2, the amendment fails. Back on the main motion, Senator Rulli.
Yeah, okay. I kind of wanted to go more into, just a little bit more into depth. I think the position is listed, but it doesn't say much of what it's doing. So I wanted to add the lines after 5.6.11.2.2. And I wanted to include with information about annual allocations, holding events, and the special allocations process. And then we can amend that more if we want, but that's what I'll leave it at. So I'll move to do that. It's with information about annual allocations, holding events, and the special allocations process.
Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion?
Special allocations process. Second.
Moved and seconded to change the language, the end of 5.6.11.2.2. Any objection to debating the amendment? All right, we'll go into a debate period for the proposed amendment. Speaker Weathers.
Max, would you be open to adding after with, before such, or before information, the word such as? Sorry, after information, the words such as?
Yeah, I'll take that as a friendly.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the proposed amendment? Question has been called for and seconded on the proposed amendment. Any objection to voting now? Go into a voting period for the amendment proposed. go into a placard vote. So vote yes, no, or abstain. Yeses. Max, yours is up, right? Noes? And abstentions? All right. With a vote of 8 to 12 to 3, the amendment fails. Back on the main motion. Any further discussion on the bill as a whole? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting on the entire bylaw bill? All right, we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote since this is a bylaw bill. So please say yes, no, or abstain, starting with Adagarla. Yes. Ulrich? Yes. Brecht? Yes. Claiborne? Yes. Cooper? Yes. Crabb? Yes. Filippi? Yes. Finaldi? Yes. Gates? Yes. Goff? Yes. Hayes? Yes. Lent? Yes. Edvate? Yes. Rios? Yes. McCready? Yes. Paulson? Yes. Rysvik? Yes. Ruley? Yes. Seth? Yes. Simmons? Yes. Wigmeister? Yes. Weathers? Yes. Yang? Yes. Zuber? Yes. Of a vote of 24 to 0 to 0, the bill or the bylaw bill passes. Moving on now to new business, 2021-2-008F, Dance Marathon line item transfer with Senator Ruley.
Title. Yeah, so Dance Marathon's doing some moving around of their stuff. They're no longer holding their Tealgate event. Instead, they're moving more. They want more money to move to their big event to the Hanson Egg Building. They're doing that, and they wanted to move. There was another meeting that they had to move. So they're moving 400 from their leadership conference to the fall recruitment production meeting. This will go towards production for holding the meeting for recruitment.
Any questions of intent for Senator Ruley? These are just yes or no questions since this is the first read. All right, moving on to 2021-2-009Y, moving CVM office hours with Vice Speaker Crabb.
So essentially, we want to help them as representative senator. They don't, a lot of their constituents don't come over here, so having ours here is a little bit harder, especially because so we're going to try to, and we're going to see this in rules as well. So I think we're going to how we're going to get that through or what that location might look like. But I'll see this next week.
Any questions of intent for Vice Speaker Crabb? No? All right. Well, that is it for new business. Now we'll go ahead and move into closing announcements. Senator Debate.
Okay. Lectures Committee had their first meeting of the semester last week. And coming up, we have The Uninhabitable Earth, Climate Change and Your Future on the 2nd, hold up, that's tomorrow. Yep, the 2nd of September, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Great Hall, right over there. If you care about climate change, that's your cue, I guess. We also have The Decision-Making Side of Machine Learning by Michael I. Jordan coming up on the 8th of September, 2021, so right before our next Senate meeting in the Communications Building. Also, lectures applications are now open. If you check your email from about 2 days ago, yesterday, one of the two, Vice President Decker sent out a Google form where you can type in your name, check off Lectures Committee, and I think that should be all. You need to get on it. Pretty cool committee. And also, congratulations to Chief of Staff Ludwig on adding an extra position and also being a co-chair of the lectures committee now. So, woo! All right, that's all.
Any more closing announcements? Oh, Senator Rios.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly remind everyone and people watching at home that SciRide is hiring. They pay $16 to $27 an hour. They have transit drivers and lane workers positions available. If you're interested, go to the City of Ames website to open positions. You don't need driving experience. They'll do that in their training. Also, there's a $1,000 hiring bonus. So if you know people that would be interested, please share. And if you want more information, please contact me. Thank you.
Senator Yang.
Oh yeah, I thought I'd bring this to everyone's attention here. I am currently talking with the editor-in-chief at the Iowa State Daily, and she sent me a list of proposed policy amendments to increase diversity of opinion and to prevent discrimination against any form of idea within the newspaper opinion section and a little bit in the editor section. So if that's something you're interested in getting your input in, shoot me a message because I will be looking over those and making revisions and language changes and such, and I would love to get your guys' opinion on that too.
President Campbell or Zach, we'll start with Finance Director Zastro and then move down the table to Chief of Staff Ludwig.
So a few of us were up bright and early on Tuesday morning to do some bar with President Campbell. So that's actually a Tuesday-Thursday thing. And on Thursdays, it's with Vice President Decker. So I know that me and Senator Hayes are going to be there bright and early tomorrow morning. Any of you who want to join us, it's in State Gym way back behind, in Old State, behind all the weird 1/12 of a mile track that's like inclined. That's really bad. It's behind that on the lower floor. Super encourage you to be there. It was a great time. 6:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Also, Dan and I are going to go on a run tonight. If anybody wants to come, we're going to do like 6 miles. Just talk with me after Senate. I yield.
I will also be there at 6:30. I'm committing to it now publicly.
Noted.
All right, with that being said, you should have received an email from me earlier today. We have a really exciting opportunity to provide student feedback on the digital accessibility policy. That's a draft that's out. I believe the official deadline is sometime in October towards the end, but the representative that reached out to us about providing student feedback is going to be presenting to a group October 16th, I believe, or October 14th. So with that being said, please take it. It'll take you no less than 20 to 30 minutes. So I would encourage you to provide feedback on that. And then I'll also be sending an announcement about signing a thank you card for a very special member of our Iowa State community that I'll drop later on in the West Student Office space throughout the week to pick up before next Tuesday. So look out for a message from me there. Thanks for the meeting tonight.
Hello. Just wanted to put it out there that any of you can give me any feedback on your feelings about bicycling on campus. I am rejoining the most important committee this university has ever created, which is the Bicycle Advisory Group. So if you have any strong feelings on the relationship between pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists on our university roadways, shoot me a text. I'm going to be working with the committee this year to improve bicycling policy on campus. And I don't know, it's a fun committee, so just reach out.
Great. I have a quick announcement. So just what I sent out on Monday morning, university committees, please fill out those forms if you have interest in any of them, like Advait mentioned. The lectures is one of them. There is also a couple of others that sound really cool to join. So be sure to fill out that form if you have any interest, or contact me if you have any questions as well. But they're due Friday at noon, and you'll be in contact within the next following week if you are invited to serve on those committees. So yes, do you have any questions?
Yeah. How often does lectures committee meet?
So Advait, is it about once a month normally? Yeah. Oh. Perfect. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or Julia, and we love to answer any, but they sound like a lot of fun and a good way to give student input to a lot of those boards. I know the chief of police we got to meet with last spring, and that sounds like a really cool one, and really addresses a lot of issues on campus. So let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for a great meeting tonight. Senator McCready?
All right, I promise I'll be quick. So tomorrow I have a meeting with individuals from Nationals with Pike fraternity here on, we're going to talk about them returning here to campus. But they're very interested in having a presentation here in front of student government. So look sometime in the next couple weeks, potentially them having a presentation. So thank you.
Right. And then Vice Speaker Crabb and Speaker Weathers.
Okay, I always have housekeeping items, but thank you for a good conversation tonight. I think there's a lot more that we can do on the conversation of diversity, equity, inclusion. These were just our bylaws. If a lot of you seem really passionate about it, I'd like to see some really big projects coming from our senators this year. I really enjoyed some of the points you all had. Thank you for speaking up. But yeah, so thank you for that, and I hope to see some big projects this year. I will be sad. And also, we're seeing ad hoc next week too. Couple other notes. When people come to speak for programs, make sure to keep your laptops down. It's just like, I don't know, thing that happens. Okay. Also when clubs visit, like if, usually I like to keep, unless you want to look at your bills too, but I usually when clubs come, it's good to put your thing down. This is kind of for exec. I'm having a conversation with Jacob Ludwig in front of all of Senate right now, but, and also same with Senate. If you're leading a committee, we still have your at-larges on the MIS page. So if you want to delete those or kind of update that, that'd be great. I don't know if like Student Initiatives has theirs on there or not, but I would just do a double check on that. Yeah, I think that is it. Don't forget to do your office hours this week. They're not required this week. They will be the following week, so please make sure to watch out for that. And then also, you got an email from Christian Grensteiner. As going to be Outreach Week, please, 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 please sign up. As senators, you all represent your constituents, so make sure that you talk to them and get to know them. All right, thank you. I yield.
Okay, everybody. One last thank you for attending the retreat, everyone who was able to come. And a big thank you to the presenters. I know Eliana and I really appreciate everyone who was able to present, and I appreciate everyone who was able to attend. I think it was a lot of fun. I think it went well. If it didn't go well, let me know, or don't, I don't care. I also want to thank everyone for the debate, like Eliana said, or Vice Speaker Crabb said. It got a little bit messy there, but that's kind of the nature of amending things on the floor like that. But I think everyone will get used to it more, including us. We'll just get more used to the process, used to the parliamentary procedure. I don't think I have much else. Thank you to Senator Seth and Director Smith for their program tonight. I think that was really interesting. If you have any questions regarding that, reach out to them. I also put their program in this meeting folder in the drive. Make sure, one more thing. Make sure you're attending committees, your constituency council meetings, and office hours. As the year goes on, people like to fail to do those, and then if that happens to happen, then we will have to issue non-feasances for not attending your committee meetings, your constituency council meetings, etc. A sour note to end on, excuse me. But go Cyclones, move to adjourn.
We're done.